Welcome back to the deep dive. So you've brought us a pretty serious piece of hardware to look at today.
I have. We are talking about the LG UltraGear OLED GX9.
The 45 GX950 AB, if you want the official, slightly less catchy name.
That's the one. It is a mouthful. But look, the mission here is pretty straightforward. LG is positioning this as, well, the absolute summit of the market.
So this isn't just an incremental upgrade for them.
Not at all. This is for the serious players, the people who want, zero compromise in their visual experience.
Okay, so our mission is to unpack that. They're calling it flagship class.
Yeah.
So we need to get into what tech they've actually combined to justify that label.
And just as importantly, what trade-offs you have to accept to get that kind of elite level performance.
Exactly. So where do we start? It has to be the display itself.
It has to be. The sources all agree the panel is the absolute star of the show here.
And it's defining mostly because of its sheer scale.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are looking at a huge 45-inch display, and it's got this really prominent 800R curve.
What really jumps out at me, though, is the resolution. It's 5K 2K.
5120 by 2160 pixels.
Which is key, because that's not just a standard ultra-wide.
No, it pushes past the vertical limits you see on, say, a typical 1440p ultra-wide. You get this immense horizontal canvas that just fills your peripheral vision.
And that's where the immersion factor really kicks in.
Totally, it just wraps around you.
I have to ask about that curve, though. 45 inches with an 800R curve. That sounds intense.
It does on paper, yeah.
Is there, like, an adjustment period for your eyes?
It's interesting. The consensus seems to be that it feels necessary for a panel that wide. In things like racing sims or flight sims, it just does a brilliant job of pulling you in without that weird distortion you can sometimes get.
Right, I know what you mean.
Okay.
So what about the actual image quality? Why is it so good? That's the WOLED tech, isn't it?
Correct. The white OLED panel is what makes it all possible, because every single pixel is its own light source. You get blacks that are just genuinely inky.
Okay, but hold on. If the blacks are literally perfect, I mean, isn't that where you get that black crush issue?
That is a fantastic point. A classic OLED problem.
Where you just lose all the detail in the shadows because the contrast is just too high.
Yeah, and the sources do acknowledge that, but they emphasize that LG's processing has gotten so good, it keeps colors vibrant without being, oversaturated.
So the shadow detail is still there.
It's there. And one reviewer made a point that really stood out, that the quality is so good it makes even everyday desktop use feel more engaging.
That's a pretty high bar.
It really is. It shows just how masterful the panel engineering is.
Okay, so that brings us to the other side of the coin here. The speed.
Right. It's not just a pretty face.
LG has layered in some absolutely wild performance specs. I'm looking at this dual mode refresh rate idea.
And this is probably the key insight. This is what makes it so special. It manages to package competitive speed and visual artistry into one single display.
You're basically getting two monitors in one.
In a sense, yeah. So how does it work? Mode 1 is for the visual connoisseur.
Full 5K 2K resolution.
At a very respectable 165 hertz, perfect for those big cinematic single-player games.
And then there's Mode 2.
Mode 2 is the revelation. When you need raw speed for competitive play, you can switch it to a blistering 330 hertz.
So you're sacrificing a bit of resolution, I assume.
Yeah.
But gaining a transformative amount of speed for, like, an esports title.
Exactly. But it's not just the refresh rate, it's how quickly the pixels can actually change.
The response time.
And this is where the OLED just delivers a knockout punch. We're talking 0.03 milliseconds.
Which is, that's virtually instantaneous.
It is. It means the bottleneck is your own reflexes, not the monitor. There's almost no noticeable motion blur.
So if you've ever seen that ghosting trail on a fast-moving object, this is engineered to completely eliminate that.
Completely. And to keep it all smooth, they added FreeSync Premium Pro support.
Which you need. That's what stops the screen tearing and stuttering when the frame rate is all over the place.
It's essential for a clean experience at those speeds.
All right, let's pivot to what's usually the Achilles heel for OLEDs. Brightness.
Yeah, the sustained brightness problem.
They have perfect blacks, but they've always struggled to compete with the sheer light output of, say, a good mini LED. How does this one handle it?
It handles it pretty intelligently. So your typical brightness for a full white screen is around 275 nits.
Which is fine. It's not going to blow you away, but it's fine.
It's standard for OLEDs because of the automatic brightness limiter, the ABL, which protects the panel.
So where does the HDR punch come from?
It comes from peak brightness in small windows. While the whole screen might be limited, it can hit peaks of up to 1,300 nits in small highlights.
I see. So that's what gives you the flash of an explosion or
Yeah,
sunlight glinting off something.
That's the punch. The sources call it a punchy HDR experience. It's certified for HDR 400, but there was a caveat.
Right, I saw that. What was it?
Well, basically, if you're a serious HDR enthusiast coming from a top-tier mini LED TV, you might want more sustained, full-screen brightness. But for gaming, it looks amazing.
Makes sense. Okay, connectivity. For this price, it needs to be future-proof.
And it absolutely is. You've got HDMI 2.1, which is key for the current gen consoles.
So your PS5 and Xbox can do 4K 120 hertz.
Yep. But for PC gamers, the real gold standard here is DisplayPort 2.1.
Why is DP 2.1 so important for this specific monitor?
Bandwidth. It has enough bandwidth to run the full 5K 2K resolution at that max 330 hertz without needing aggressive compression.
Ah, so you're not losing any visual data. You're getting the full, uncompromised signal.
No data bottleneck whatsoever. It's a critical detail.
And I see they included USB-C with power delivery.
Which is a huge quality of life feature. You can run a powerful laptop with a single cable video, data, and charging. Turns the monitor into a really clean desktop hub.
What about the built-in speakers? Are they any good?
The phrase used was perfectly serviceable for general use.
So good enough for a YouTube clip, but that's about it.
Yeah. Look, if you're buying this monitor, you should be using a good headset or a dedicated sound system. Don't buy it for the speakers.
Fair enough. Now, let's talk about the physical reality of putting this thing on your desk. The design.
It's that classic UltraGear aesthetic. Sleek, minimalist, matte black. It definitely looks the part.
But
You need space. The stand is very stable, as it has to be, but its footprint is, fairly large.
so measure your desk before you buy.
Please measure your desk. Cable management is pretty decent, though, which helps keep things looking clean.
Okay, let's hit the two big elephants in the room.
Yeah.
First, the price.
It's gonna give some buyers pause. You're paying an elite-level tax for being on the absolute cutting edge.
It's an investment on the scale of a whole new gaming PC.
Easily. Which leads directly to the second and maybe bigger concern for a lot of people, burn-in.
The perennial OLED question. The fear that your Windows taskbar is going to be permanently etched into your very expensive screen.
It's the biggest psychological hurdle. But LG has thrown a lot of mitigation tech at this. This is the latest generation of durability features.
Like what, specifically?
Things like pixel shifting, which subtly moves static images around. It has automated logo detection to dim bright, static logos in content, screensavers, all that.
So the risk is still there, theoretically.
It's a theoretical concern, yeah. But it's been mitigated to a point where, for most users, it's not a day-to-day worry anymore. It's been pushed way out into the product's lifespan.
Okay, so if we bring it all together, what's the final verdict?
The verdict is that it's an absolute powerhouse. The price is high, but you can see where the money went. It's justified by the sheer amount of tech packed in here.
So to synthesize for everyone, you're getting that unmatched picture quality from the 45-inch WOLED panel, the immersion from the 5K 2K resolution.
And crucially, that raw speed, the Barrel 0.03 ms response time combined with that 330 Hz mode.
There just aren't many monitors that can bridge that gap between, visual artistry and competitive speed so well.
It's the definition of a top-tier investment.
So the final takeaway for you, the listener, seems to be that this thing absolutely delivers on its promise. If you have the space, the PC to drive it, and, well, the budget for it.
And that really brings us to the final provocative thought. Given that this is a cutting-edge, high-cost flagship, you have to consider the long-term calculus.
Oh.
Does that incredible, undeniable performance leap you get from 330 hertz and that near-instant response time, does it outweigh the lingering theoretical concern of OLED burn-in over its lifespan?
That's a great question. You're paying a premium to be on the bleeding edge, and that sometimes comes with unique trade-offs.
It's something you really have to mull over when you're considering this tier of technology.
That is the essential calculation. Well, thank you for bringing in the source material for this one. This was a fascinating deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.